This is KGW News at 11.
We begin with breaking news. Multiple streets are shut down in Hillsboro because of a hit-and-run crash. This happened at Southeast 10th Avenue and Southeast Walnut Street around 9:40. We're told a pedestrian was hit in that intersection and the driver took off. Southeast 10th Avenue is closed between Oak and Maple. Southeast Walnut Street is closed between 9th and 11th. Police right now are looking for a dark color, newer model sedan that may be missing a side view mirror. The pedestrian is in the hospital with serious injuries.
I remember hitting my head against my window and things were flying around everywhere.
We're also following another hit and run crash, a dad and 3 young girls. And this one say they're lucky to be alive after a hit and run rollover. Detectives still have not caught the driver who caused that one, and they believe that person was drunk at the time. KGW's Lindsay Nadrich spoke to this family about what happened. Lindsay?
Well, it happened last night just south of Sherwood on Highway 99 near Southwest Chapman Road. It's incredible no one was seriously hurt in this.
It's a powerful image. 3 young girls sitting on the ground with paramedics after surviving a rollover crash caused by a suspected drunk driver.
And I think we spun all the way into the field. And as soon as we hit, I started praying.
We rolled. If it was 50 feet earlier, we would have hit farm equipment that was there. If we rolled any further, we would have ended up in a farm pond.
Nathan Farrell was driving this red car that landed on its side. Paramedics had to break the windshield and back window to pull out Nathan, his 2 young daughters, and their friend, who were all in the car with him.
I remember hitting my head against my window and things were flying around everywhere.
The biggest thing is thinking about them.
I was on top of them all, kind of hanging.
Once I knew they were safe, at least in a safe condition, that's when the adrenaline really kicked in.
They were driving south on Highway 99 when they were hit by this 1993 Ford Ranger. Detectives found beer cans in the pickup, so they suspect the driver was drunk. But after the crash, the driver of the truck and his passenger were picked up by another driver almost immediately. They took off, so detectives are now asking for help identifying him. Although no one was seriously hurt, Nathan and the girls say they're still dealing with the trauma this caused. Nathan says he can't thank first responders enough for helping them get out of the car and stay calm.
The firemen and the EMS, they treated my girls with the utmost respect, and I would love them to know that that's it.
Well, as you can hear in his voice, this is still very emotional for them because it could have been so much worse. Again, detectives are still working to find the driver of that Ford. They say several people called 911 saying that same truck almost ran them off the road last night. If you know anything that can help, call the Washington County Sheriff's Office. Back to you.
A scary story, and you hurt for that family. Lindsay, thank you very much. Now to an update on a very sad story that we brought you as breaking news last night. Investigators are still looking into a tragic situation at Willamette Park where a child was hit and killed by a boat trailer. This happened at the boat ramp on Southwest Beaver Avenue. That little boy was 7 years old. He died at the hospital. Boaters out today were being extra careful.
We've had a lot of instances where we come out here and there's people where, trailers are backing down. You can't always see who's in the water all the time. I think keeping kids outside of the boat ramp and off to the sides in the designated swimming areas is the biggest thing.
We are told everyone involved with that tragedy is cooperating with the investigation. Let's turn now to the weather and its role amid fire season. It's hot, it's dry, and in southeast Washington, it's windy. And for crews battling the juniper fire, that makes a hard job harder. One firefighter shared that photo right there showing one of the hot spots that flared up today. And then there's this video of the fire actually starting. That's a wind turbine burning. We're told it caught fire. We don't know how exactly, but the flames spread from there. This happened last night near the Washington side of the gorge, near the small town of Bickleton. The good news is this fire is actually, we've learned, smaller than previously thought at about 240 acres, and it's 40% contained. Also, no one's been hurt. and no homes or buildings have been damaged. As we said, though, it's hot and dry. Meteorologist Joe Ranieri joining us now. Joe, this was actually the hottest day of the summer in the Portland area.
And we hit a high of 91 degrees. Tomorrow is going to be a little bit cooler, but still warm. I'm expect to see highs right around the mid to the upper 80s. I'll talk more about that in just a few minutes, but I want to look at kind of the fire danger threat. It's not going to be throughout the metro area. Winds so far are calm, but you travel into the Columbia River Gorge later on tomorrow and into Tuesday, it's going to be pretty windy. As we put the futurecast into motion, you can see the Dows by tomorrow morning, not that all impressive in terms of the wind gusts, about 15 miles per hour. Then it really starts to pick up right around 20-25 miles per hour heading into late tomorrow afternoon and into tomorrow night, and expect to see some very windy conditions throughout eastern Washington and the east end of the Columbia River Gorge heading into late Tuesday afternoon and into Tuesday night. Now, the fire weather danger is really going to be throughout the central and eastern side of the state, and especially throughout the southeastern side of Oregon. You can kind of see all those thunderstorms have been moving through here the last couple of hours. That's going to continue the rest of tonight and potentially into tomorrow afternoon. Looking at some of the watches and warnings, there is the fire weather watch that's in place through parts of southern Oregon heading into tomorrow, and will stay in effect until Tuesday night. Low relative humidity, that just means very dry, levels anywhere from about 10 to 15%, and with some windy conditions, the fire threat is going to be on the high end over the next couple of days. There is going to be some cooler weather and a slight chance for some light sprinkles. I'll talk about that in just a few minutes.
All right, Joe. Thank you. We'll see you soon. Shifting gears, they're quickly becoming the nemesis of every online shopper, especially in the wake of Amazon Prime Day. That said, good news. A push to bring porch pirates, as they're called, to justice is working. Earlier this week, Washington County deputies set up decoy packages, and this morning, someone took one. Little did they know, it came with a GPS tracker. Deputies followed the unsuspecting thief along that path that you saw to Aloha and confronted her in a yard. She's ID'd as 34-year-old Sheena Watson, and they say she confessed pretty quickly.
It's a livability issue for the citizens of Washington County, and we're very, very interested in putting a dent in it if we can. Obviously, you can't stop it all, you can't catch everyone, but being proactive about it is about the best we can do.
And it's not just Washington County. Last Tuesday, Portland police also staged a similar sting and arrested 2 people on felony mail theft charges. A new law in Oregon lets students take mental health days so they can stay home from school just like they would if they're sick. A group of teenagers advocated to get this measure passed, saying it's needed to address the mental health crisis in schools and the stigma associated with mental health. Suicide is the leading cause of death for Oregonians ages 10 to 34, according to the Oregon Health Authority. Utah, by the way, also passed a law like that last year. So what you're looking at right now is a show of solidarity with Portlanders from around the globe, as organizers said. It's called the Walk with Refugees. It's a mile long. Portland Parks and Rec does it every year. But this year, against the backdrop of highly publicized ICE raids and the president's calls for congresswomen of color to go back to their countries, staff say the walk and the topic carry more weight. So today, thousands turned out for the walk, including city commissioners, Oregon's Attorney General, and Parks and Recreation Director Adina Long. Here, off camera, she welcomed a family to Portland and to the U.S.
After living for almost 15 years in a refugee camp in Tanzania, they arrived in Portland last month under the federal refugee resettlement program.
Whether you were forced to leave your homeland for your safety and survival, or chose to leave to seek a better life, your courage is commendable, and we support you.
This year's Walk with Refugees happened in Northeast Portland in connection with PBOT's Sunday Parkways. All right, so here's a scenario that might sound familiar. A number that looks a lot like yours is calling, or maybe caller ID says it's actually the government ringing you. You pick it up, and then on the other end, a recording says your social security number or your benefits are suspended. If you've experienced this, you should know it's the latest version of a government imposter scam. KGW investigative reporter Morgan Romero found out there's a huge uptick in these calls right now, with thousands of Americans reporting reporting $10 million in losses over the past few years.
The reason you have received this phone call from our department is to inform you that we just suspend your social security number.
Ever heard this recording on the other end of the line? Jessica Alsberg has.
I got about 3. Oh, AT&T spam risk. Vaguely threatening language, trying to scare you into pressing 1 so that somebody in who knows where could collect your personal information.
She didn't fall for it, but can see how people would.
It was very serious sounding.
A few versions of this scam have been going around the last few months.
There is a legal enforcement action filed on your social security number for criminal activities.
It's a robocall, a scammer pretending to be from the Social Security Administration.
Kindly revert as soon as possible on our number that is 210-361-5373.
A recording says your social's been suspended. It might prompt you to reactivate your number by calling a phone number back or by paying up.
I'm not usually one who falls for spam calls. You know, the hotel, we're going to give you a free weekend. But this one, it kind of made me panic a little.
Scammers want you to panic because they want your personal information, likely so they can drain your bank account.
And they don't need to find many to make it work.
Willamette University law professor David Friedman says this taps into people's biggest fears.
Which is either that their identity has been stolen, and people, I think, have a sense about what that's like, or that they might think that their Social Security benefits, which they're depending on as a lifeline, are going to end.
Here's the thing. Your Social Security number will never, ever be suspended, according to the Federal Trade Commission. Social Security agents won't ever call and ask for your Social Security number or ask you to pay anything. Agents won't ever call you and threaten your benefits either. Never give out or confirm personal information over the phone or online until you've vetted who's asking for it. And don't trust a name, email, or phone number just because it seems it's connected to the federal government. And contact agencies directly using telephone numbers or websites you've researched and know are legitimate.
This is outrageous that we can't stop this type of basic scam in America.
That's why Senator Jeff Merkley introduced the Robocalls and Text Act. He wants to create a division in the FCC to take this on, to crack down on fraud and reinforce and develop more regulations.
We don't have a lot of information about who they are, where they're operating from, because we haven't been going after them aggressively.
Friedman agrees, but says catching these fraudsters isn't easy.
I think the key here is to try to find a way to make this more expensive and more difficult for the people who are pulling off the fraud. One way of doing that would be to educate people, but even if you educate people, there's always the next thing.
Such an ominous warning there at the end. That was Morgan Romero reporting. And the newer twist on the scam is that some of the numbers calling mimic your own. Others are toll free, and sometimes your caller ID will show the Social Security Administration's actual phone number. But of course, it's not the real agency call.